units, like Mutalisk, obviously you're going to want to get some Vikings and get some Marines. And as you can see, I'm going to take out this X-Band pretty safely. And that's going to really hurt his economy. He's back to 2 base, not even a full 2 base. And I'm just going to be able to keep producing out these units. And I'm expecting a lot of Mutalisks, as I've seen his play, and I've checked around. I see he doesn't even have a Baneling Nest. He has a Roach Warren, but has not been using it. So I have some tanks, and I have got some Marines, so I'm pretty focused on countering here what he's going. And this is just a blind attack that he should not have done. This was a waste, especially if you have no clue what's at their base. Then this was just a bad play. I just eat these up, no problem. If he had scouted my base and seen that there's nothing there to defend it against, and he could get some wings into my mineral line, then that would be a good play. But not knowing what you're going up into, and just in a desperation play like that, not a good idea when he knows he's behind. And like I said, I see that he has roaches around that time I scanned. I see these. I didn't think he was going to get any. I thought it might have been a misstep, but he does get roaches, and when I see that, I pretty much jump for joy, because I've already got tanks coming out. I have 4 tanks, and I'm getting the Marauders out. And tanks and Marauders just destroy roaches. The thing I was scared about was Mutalisk task, like tons of Mutalisks coming out. And so I was going to eventually get Thors, but I did not end up doing that because I saw all these roaches, knew he wasn't going Thor. And if he had been, or I knew he wasn't going Mutalisk, so if he had gotten tons of Mutalisks and then a bunch of Lings as well to support, then I would have been a lot more scared. I'm really scared of Ling Baneling Muta play when I'm Terran. But as for this roach play, I know I can sneak in here, and his static defenses are a big part of his army, so I'm going to be able to use my tanks against that. He's got tons of roaches coming out here, but I've got my Stim Marines, and my tanks just firing down on them, and there's just no chance that that roach army is going to be able to take mine out. And I'm going to try and get in here, but not too smart to send my bio ball into this mass here. I'm not too sure why I did that, but I'm going to pull up the tanks and get them out. And the moral of this story so far pretty much is just army composition. Roach is not what you want to do against tanks. He's got quite a nice economy, quite a lot of minerals, starting a new base over here. He seemed like he was in a pretty good position. He just went with the wrong strategy pretty much, and that could be due to a lack of scouting. He did not scout my base too much at all, except for the start of the game. If we check this, you can see a lot of things missing. He has not seen. He does not know what my unit composition really is until I attack his expansion over here, and he does not do the right answer to it. These Lings, look at them coming in here, so many of them, taking out most of my bio ball. And just that amount of Banelings. Great play. If he had had that before, going for my base, it would have been probably a different story, as he can wipe out bio balls so easy, especially when you chase them down in an open area and get them away from tanks. You can really just hunt them down and then send in your Mutalisks and take out those tanks. With good micro and enough units, you can. There's just no problem against Terran. You can just shut them down with the Baneling Ling Muta strategy, and so far I have not lost to a Terran as Zerg. Then again, I haven't lost to a Zerg as Terran yet either. I did have a successful game this morning where I just rushed Marines and 1 Thor with a bunch of SCVs healing in. There's really not much he could do because he 14 hatched it and tried to build up his forces, or build up his macro, and I just shut him down too early. So as you can see, this one is pretty much over, and he's going to GG out, as you can see. So this one is about army composition, just not the right answer to tanks and bio ball. And especially against Terran, there are a lot of other things you can do, like going into Infestors or teching up to Ultras, as well as, Broodlords. Broodlords are very good against Thors, and Bioballs when they... Broodlords are just good altogether if you can end up teching up to them. It's either that or Ultras, but the basis for Zerg-Terran matchup is pretty much Baneling Ling Muta, because it's just so effective in the mid-game. And then you have the options to tech up different ways, and unless you're doing, say, a 7 Roach Rush. That does, I think that's pretty effective. against the well, it depends on what the strategy is. If you can ever catch one off guard, fast expanding. But overall, just I'm definitely a Baneling Muta fan. I did upload a video, the last episode of SC4D at this period in time is a Baneling Muta video. Definitely a great video, so check that out. And as you can see, we talked it over a bit, and that is everything for this match. So basically, unit composition very strong in this game, and to do the proper unit composition, you have to scout. He could have had an overlord over here up on the high ground to tell him when I expanded. He could have a couple around here, maybe suicide one or two, suicide a couple lings just to see what's at my front, see what I'm getting, because you can tell so much from the army that without even seeing their base, you can tell what they have with their army. I learned this a lot from watching Day 9 Daily. You can see what they're getting, what they're going, and what kind of units they have. If you see a bunch of Thors, you know there's not a whole lot of room for other things besides a bio ball because of the economic toll that Thors take, etc. And if you want to know what production buildings you can suicide an overseer in and see if there's any tech labs on the starports and things like that. See what they have, just scout out and find out what they have. It's always so key to know what they have and then react properly to that, especially as a Terran, Zerg, Protoss. I guess it really doesn't matter. You gotta get the scouting out and get the proper compositions up. So overall, to Draker, that was definitely a solid game. You have solid macro. I'm sure there are other things I overlooked, maybe like production of drones. I'm going to check back just to see about mid-game what the drone count was. That's when he was ahead by a lot. Over here, he's almost doubling me. He's got so much more. But the army difference, the fact that he's not massing up as much as an army, he wasn't spreading the creep. Definitely good to spread that creep as far as you can. And taking this gold expansion definitely would have helped. Otherwise, definitely some good macro play. Just work on your unit composition and work on making sure you know what the other player has. Don't be left in the dark to what they have. That's always scary because you never know when Banshees are going to fly in your mineral line or when something totally surprising happens. It's just a shock, and it's a loss that you probably would not have had to take if you had just seen that happen first. So that is pretty much everything for this episode of the 1v1 Chino segment. Hope you guys learned a couple things, and submit your replays and add me online to get your chance. My name is New Era, N-E-W-E-R-A. Code is 801, so add me up or send in your submissions to sc4dummies@gmail.com. Hopefully I'll have time to cast it, so to everybody, that is pretty much everything for this episode of SC4D. This is New Era, signing out.